Scorpio, welcome to your November 2020 Astro Transit Update. It's Raina here. So I've chosen to start with Scorpio for November because the sun is in Scorpio as the month of November begins, as it is every year, obviously. And there is a lot of scorpionic energy in November. The sun is here, and one of your rulers, Mars, is still retrograde as we begin the month of November. And so Mars is in the sign of Aries, its ruler, but it also co-rules Scorpio with Pluto. And so we consider that your ruler. And so when Mars goes retrograde, when somebody's ruler goes retrograde, they may experience things a bit different than other people who are having retrogrades. I don't know if it's going to be across the board. It may even be a mellowing effect, since Mars doesn't have its typical, that whatever you would call that type of energy that it exerts over people. There's, but it's interesting because there's some talk about Mars retrograde as making things easier to manifest. It doesn't take as much effort. But there can be, I think, even since this is going to be affecting your first house, that it could even be with the body, a sense of not as much physical stamina. So it's great that this is the month when Mars goes direct. You may notice yourself becoming more and more energetic. On the 3rd, Mercury goes direct at 25 degrees of Libra, and for you, this is in the 12th house. Now, the Mercury retrograde began in Scorpio, so again, because it's your sign, this may have affected you in particular. And since it originated in the 1st house and ended up in the 12th house, you may have even been reflecting upon something about your life or the way that you present yourself to others and looking at it from a past life perspective. Now, that may seem kind of like outlandish because some of you may have no idea what I'm talking about. And I just want to say it might not even be on the conscious level. Sometimes Mercury retrograde can lead to research. And in the 12th house, it can cause people to suddenly want to, I should say it could cause somebody to want to tap into the Akashic records, to get some kind of a practitioner, like a psychic, but somebody who deals with past life regression or something like that, because their conscious life feels like there's something missing or that they can't overcome a certain hurdle and they need somebody to help them deal with it. Like, for instance, if somebody is very introverted to the point of social anxiety and there's no known reason for this, some kind of a traumatic event that occurred when they were younger, where they were mocked, and why they are so pathologically self-conscious, they may seek some kind of spiritual intervention to try to get over this, because it feels like it's impeding upon their progress as an adult. So they might do something along those lines. But even in those cases, it does take a certain amount of spiritual understanding to even appreciate that could possibly be something that's going on. So, for people who are just everyday people, it may simply be that you are you have recently become a lot more intuitive, spiritual. The 12th house can be like even the dream state, and perhaps this is directing your life at this time. Now that Mercury is direct, it is in that 12th house, so the messages that you receive can be things that promote your future, things that you want for your future. And some people, they are very connected, especially Scorpios or other water signs, are particularly connected to their dream state because that's when they receive information. But when a personal planet like Mercury is direct, you can act on it and kind of progress that way. And then on the 10th, it goes back into your sign. And I think that it's really good when Mercury is in our own sun sign, because we feel this alignment with who we are and what we stand for, how we frame things. It's very good for people who are looking for work when they ask you those questions like who are you, or what do you tell me a little bit about yourself, and you can really articulate that in a way that is faithful to who you are. And same thing with going out on dates and meeting new people and being able to kind of like sell yourself, if you will. On the 13th, Mars stations direct at 15 degrees of Aries. So this is actually in your 6th house of work, Scorpio, and there may have been something in that area that speaks of conflict in the workplace. It's possible that while Mercury, I hope I didn't say Mercury, Mars has been retrograding, that you even received a promotion or some kind of situation. Yeah, I would say it would have to be along those lines, a plum assignment, something that you really wanted to get involved with, and a project that you were kind of vying for. And it came very easily to you, but there may have been conflict with others who are competitive with you. When Mars is in the 6th house, co-workers can be problematic. However, it may have nothing to do with that and can simply mean that you're more active in the workplace, so maybe you're getting more hours. Perhaps you're getting some hours restored to your schedule, and you were only part-time before. Mars in the 6th house can also be very good for, physically moving for health reasons. So starting a new exercise program. Maybe you've been doing things like yoga while Mars is retrograde, and now you want more vigorous exercise. On the 15th, we have a new moon at 23 degrees of Scorpio, and this is your new moon, and this is a time of setting your intentions, and it doesn't have to be anything formal. You can just do it in your mind. You can make the decision that you want to experience certain things, and I guess you would have to believe them, though, and they would have to be relatively realistic goals for the best possible outcome. But there may be something that you are very driven to achieve in the next year, and this is the time to envision that. On the 21st, Venus goes into your sign. So for the first 3 weeks of the month, Venus is in Libra, the sign that it rules, so it's very comfortable there. For you, this is the 12th house. Is it comfortable in the 12th house, Venus? Probably. I have never read specifically on Venus in the 12th, but I would imagine that it probably is okay there because Venus is exalted in Pisces, and Pisces rules the 12th house. But when Venus is in the 12th house, something is hidden from others. This could be a love relationship where, Scorpio, you are already secretive as a sign. You don't like other people to know your business. So this could simply be a situation where you have been keeping a person under wraps for whatever reason. Maybe it's a new relationship and you don't want other people to poison the well, or just you don't want to have expectations and other people to kind of put their 2 cents in. So these kinds of situations are not necessarily ones that I wouldn't disagree with. I think that while you're getting to know somebody, it really is sometimes good not to, just like you don't introduce your dating partner to your children necessarily right away. The same thing with friends, that you want that chance to nurture the relationship. But this can also be about meeting somebody who is like soulmate material during Venus transiting the 12th house. Now, obviously, there are no guarantees with that. It could be like a karmic relationship that's like from hell, It all depends on the dynamics in the relationship. And by the way, if you notice that when you meet somebody, sparks are flying, but sometimes they're a little bit too volatile, you can nip that in the bud. You don't have to prolong the agony. You could say, sometimes I get in personal readings, people say to me that they have known somebody. They feel like they've known that person, for a long time. And I could totally see that. I've experienced that as well. But some of these relationships that we feel that way, they can turn out really bad. And the reason why is because karmic relationships are not all necessarily good ones. They can be ones that are just carrying over from another lifetime. And it's like, how long will you be victimized? So it can go either way. And so don't allow familiarity, the feelings of familiarity, to lure you to stay involved with somebody where it's not a good situation. And the same day that Venus, well, let me just say, Venus going into your sign can make you attractive. Venus is the attractor. Attractive has come to basically mean good looks. But that is hardly the only meaning. And there are people who may look very physically appealing and be energetically repellent, so it doesn't always work that way. But attraction, we think of the law of attraction. And attraction simply means that you are a magnet for, good people praising you. Venus can be about value and worth, and they can see your worth and praise you for that. They can pay you what you're worth. So Venus rules the relationship sector, the seventh house, but it also rules the second house of earned income in the sign of Taurus. So that kind of thing. And so when Venus goes into your sign, other people may be inexplicably drawn to you, and that could lead to more money, more love coming into your life. On the same day, the sun goes into Sagittarius, and this is your second house of earned income. So that's very auspicious for money as well, because Venus rules that second house. And the fact that the sun is here, the sun is a positive influence, and it indicates that this is an area that you're focusing on at this time. Neptune turns direct on the 28th of November at 22 degrees of Pisces. Now, Pisces for you is the fifth house. And it's the fifth house of, I should say 23 degrees of Pisces. The fifth house is the house of love, creativity, and the business that you own. So if a Scorpio person has had some kind of a business, I think Neptune went retrograde in late June. When Neptune goes retrograde, it actually is the opposite of the effect that it has when it's direct. So it kind of gives you a wake-up call, a reality check about that area of life. In this case, it could be a romantic partner that you may have been smitten by. You find out really beyond the infatuation what they're really like. And that could be disillusioning. For somebody who has a small business, they may feel like a little bit of discouragement if they had high hopes for it and it seems like it hasn't been doing what they had wanted it to do. Now that Neptune is turning direct, you can dream again. It doesn't mean, though, sticking your head in the sand. This is the point of this particular retrograde, I would say, is that it kind of points out where you have been in denial or something along those lines. So even in the case of a dating partner, which the fifth house would represent, it doesn't mean that person is crossed off your list and you can't have a relationship with that person. It simply means that you have to see them in a realistic light. On the 30th, we have a lunar eclipse at 8 degrees of Gemini. So this is in the 8th house for you. And this is the house that you rule. So there's a strong connection for you to this house. This can be a very spiritual experience, like a spiritual download that has some connection between you and the real meaning of life to you. It could have, and by the way, let me double check here. Well, Mercury will be in your sign already by then, so it won't be in the 12th house. But you've recently had Mercury in the 12th house, so that may have assisted you in some of these insights that of a spiritual nature. And even, a lunar eclipse, this is a powerful full moon in the 8th house. If you've had any kind of obsessive feelings for somebody, like maybe a person you've been dating, it can kind of like just get rid of that obsession, any addictions. And it's also a time when the phrase came into my mind, the thinning of the veils. I know that's at the time of around Halloween, but with the eighth house, we're talking about the dead. And a lunar eclipse, I mean, that could bring some kind of mediumship connection with crossed over loved ones, or even just other spirits, souls that you come in contact with. It definitely can be this rebirthing process, letting go of the old self, shedding an old skin, and doing so rather effortlessly. It's kind of like beyond your control, so to speak. But that's, in a lot of ways, that's the best kind, because it's a lot more easy to slip into, and you don't feel like you have to do a lot of work to make it happen. So yeah, I mean, November ends on a dramatic note for you with this. It kind of reminds me of the Judgment card in the tarot, which is a card of rebirth. But this is kind of the death process, and you're the death card in the tarot. And it's funny, when we say the word death, it sounds scary, and really it's making way for rebirth, letting go of something that's already dead. It's not even something that you have to render, lifeless. It already is. Okay, that's what I have for you, Scorpio. I hope that you enjoyed this. Happy birthday to all of you, and I hope you have a great 2021. I will be doing forecasts for that at some point in the near future. And if you would like a personal reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.